So I recorded a podcast with my friend Natalie Jill because she was just diagnosed with hypothyroidism slash Hashimoto's. And we were going over her labs, and there was so much that she didn't know about thyroid. And we really went all the way back to the beginning because she was like, wait, stop. Can you explain this to me? Can you go deeper? Because I really want to understand what my numbers mean, what I should be looking for, and how to navigate this whole thyroid process. And one of the things that she said really stuck with me, and that she's in this health and wellness space. Like many of you, you're taking care of yourself, you're doing all the right things, you think that you got this and that hypothyroidism, that's not going to touch me. And then it does. So it's very important to understand exactly what is going on with your numbers. And today I want to focus. Now we're going to talk a little bit about all the numbers, but I really want to focus on this free T4 because so many people, including Natalie, when we were chatting, said, well, where should my free T4 level be? And this is where I have started saying to everyone, including you, don't chase your T4 number. We're not chasing T4. So what do I mean by that? Let's go all the way back. Basic physiology. Your thyroid gland makes two thyroid hormones, T4 and T3. And it makes it in about what we know, what we can test for, an 80-20 ratio. 80% T4, 20% T3. Now, you've heard me say we absolutely need to test free T3 and reverse T3 in that full panel. If you don't have free T3 and reverse T3, we can't tell you anything about what's going on with your thyroid. We can't change a thing with your thyroid medication. You need those two values. They are the two most important values in the thyroid lab panel that you can possibly attain. If you don't have those, then throw the whole damn thing out because it doesn't even matter. I don't care what your TSH is. I don't care what your free T4 is. If you don't have free T3 and reverse T3, we know nothing. Basic physiology, T4 must, absolutely must convert to T3. T4 is 100% inactive. There is not a single receptor site on any one of your cells anywhere in your body for T4. It has to literally become T3. So it gets converted in the body, in the thyroid gland, in the gut, in the liver, in peripheral tissues. It gets converted over into T3. Now, that T3 is the active thyroid hormone. That's what attaches to your cell. In fact, every single cell in your body has a receptor site on it for T3. It's like a beautiful lock and key, right? So think of T4 as you're jamming the wrong key into the lock. Maybe it goes in, but it won't turn. Maybe it won't even go in at all. There's just not a match there for that key to activate that lock and open the door. But then when it transforms into T3, now it fits beautifully into the lock. It turns it. It activates your metabolism. It grows your hair. It lights up your brain. It activates your GI tract. And that's what we want. That's ultimately what we want. That's why we want to test the free form version of T3, the free T3, the free active thyroid hormone that is in your blood, ready to connect, ready to connect to that lock and key mechanism and turn your cells on. But it can't do that unless it becomes T3. Now, the free version is that bioavailable, not bound to any kind of hormone binding globulin. We want to know how much T3 is in your system ready to be taken up by the cells. Total T3 is fine. It's nice. It's optional. But even in the Just Fix Your Thyroid Facebook group, someone posted the other day, here's my lab values. I have a total T3, but they wouldn't test my free T3. Why? Why isn't your doctor testing your free T3? What's the excuse? What's the reasoning? Ask your doctor why. Why won't they test free T3? Because there's really actually not a good reason. So anything that comes out of their mouth as a justification, just wave goodbye and walk out the door and find a new doctor. You absolutely must test free T3. Now, what if that T4 that either you're taking or that your thyroid gland is making doesn't convert to free T3? Where does it go? Well, it gets converted over to reverse T3, the anti-thyroid hormone. Reverse T3, built into our bodies as a survival mechanism, goes up in times of crisis or trauma or injury to protect our body, because our body knows that you don't have to be burning fat or making any major decisions or have energy when you're lying there fighting for your life. The problem is if you have elevated reverse T3 when you're walking around trying to live life, that's not good. We don't want to walk around in survival mode. That doesn't do any good for anyone. So what do? We have to make sure that those pathways of conversion are opened up and we check all of those boxes. So in the case of Natalie, her reverse T3 was a 19. Now she's not on any thyroid medication, but the 80% of T4 that her own thyroid gland is making is actually not converting properly. So here you have the T4 hormone, and it has two paths to choose. It can go down the path and become free T3, or it can go down the path and become reverse T3. That is why we absolutely 100% of the time need to check reverse T3. Now, how does all this tie back into don't chase your T4 numbers? I'll get there. Bear with me. You need this baseline in order to understand what I'm going to say next. So we have reverse T3 as that anti-thyroid hormone blocking T3 from connecting to its key, from connecting to its lock, from the key going into the lock on your cell and turning that lock. It can't do it. When reverse T3 is high, it can't get there. I always use the analogy of a bouncer at the club, bouncer outside the club door saying, hey, T3, you're not coming in today. You're just not getting in. The factors that can influence that conversion are many. So with Natalie, we went down and we checked all of those boxes. Are you estrogen dominant? No. Are you insulin resistant? No. Are you low in selenium, magnesium, iodine? No. Do you have the D101 or D102 genetic SNP that impairs conversion? We don't know. She hasn't had that tested yet. So when you go down and check all of the boxes and say, okay, low ferritin, not a problem. Low iodine, not a problem. Non-estrogen dominant. I got my insulin under control. I'm taking all the nutrients. My vitamin D levels are optimal. I don't have active Epstein-Barr virus. I'm not walking around in some inflamed viral load situation. Then we have to look at that reverse T3 and say, your body is having issues converting your own T4 over to T3 like it should. So we need to address that. Now, when I looked at her free T4 numbers, they were fine. We'll just call it fine. It's like a 1.4. It was fine. It was actually a little bit high. So that tells me that her body is producing a boatload of T4, but her body is taking that T4 and converting it to reverse instead. Now, what about the scenario of someone taking T4? Let's say you are on T4 only, and your doctor just keeps raising that T4. You've gone from 50 micrograms to 88 micrograms. Now you're at 112, and the next bump will be 125. You feeling me yet? Are you nodding your head? Oh, yeah, that's me. So your doctor just keeps raising your T4, raising your T4. Oh, right. That's because they're only testing your TSH and your free T4, or maybe your total T4. That's all they're looking at. And then they're chasing those values. They're trying to get your TSH right in the normal limits. I'm using air quotes here for those listening. Trying to get that TSH within normal limits. I don't even know what they're looking at for the free T4. I have no idea what conventional medicine thinks or aims for when they test that. But at the end of the day, it actually doesn't even matter. We do not chase free T4 numbers. And quite honestly, I've changed all of my downloads for optimal lab value ranges. If you want the latest one, join my Just Fix Your Thyroid. Join my Just Fix Your Thyroid Facebook group. And we have that for you that has all of the hormonal lab values, that has all of the thyroid lab values, where you should be. And you will see on there that I have changed the free T4 to basically say it doesn't really even matter. Because if you have too much of it, whenever I see that free T4 at a 1.4, 1.5, 1.3, I immediately go to the reverse. And I say, this person has too much T4 in their body. Either they're overproducing it themselves, or they are on way too much T4. They're probably on T4 only because they're with a doctor that has no clue how to treat the thyroid, much less test for it. and they just keep bumping up the T4. Well, the problem is if we're chasing a T4 number, then we're ultimately going to end up pushing up the reverse T3. It doesn't matter. Let's think basic physiology again. We'll take myself for an example. Many of you know that I am T3 only. So if I'm only taking T3 and have been for 20 some years, then would you expect me to have an elevated free T4? I mean, sure, my thyroid gland is still kicking out some, but not much. With Hashimoto's, it's down to nothing. And because I've been on T3 all of these years, the negative feedback loop has absolutely kicked in. My thyroid gland really doesn't work on its own anymore, and I don't care because I'm optimal and I feel fantastic. And I am on the right dose for me, the right medication, the right dose to keep me optimal, to keep me living a rock star life and feeling great every single day. And that's what we all deserve. But in that scenario, it just makes common sense, which often is not brought into the picture in conventional sick medicine, much less functional medicine. It makes sense that I would not have any T4, really. I mean, maybe a little piddly poop amount, but if you look at my free T4, it's actually flagged low. Good, fine, makes sense to me. My reverse T3, non-existent, less than 5. Right. Because we're not going to chase a reverse T3 up, are we? We're going to chase it down. If reverse T3 is above a 12, hell yeah. Let's change your T4. Let's drop that dose. Let's add in some T3. But we're not going to chase it up. I'm not going to try to raise a reverse T3 from a 1 to a 12. And it just makes sense that if you're on T3 only, you don't have the thyroid hormone coming in that converts to reverse T3, because what did we just say? The only thing that converts to reverse T3 is T4. This is why we're not chasing T4 lab values. In fact, after we start treating you, so after you are out of the conventional system, you've moved away from the functional practitioners that are just bullshitting you with some joke of a program because they can't prescribe, and you actually get on the right thyroid medication at the right dose for you, I don't even care if we test your TSH and free T4 anymore. I mean, we can just for shits and giggles or just to see the trend over time, but it doesn't matter. As long as you have your free T3 and reverse T3 tested and we were checking the antibodies to watch them and see how they're trending, that's really all you need. So guess what? If you are on the path to optimization and you have to order your own labs, just leave off the TSH and free T4, save a couple bucks, doesn't even matter. Because I don't want you to get wrapped into that mindset that I have to chase a free T4 number. You do not. Because remember, the only thing that converts to reverse T3 is T4. Now let's take the scenario of someone on T4 and T3, which is many of you, hopefully. Hopefully you're not on T4 only. If you're working with me, you're on T3 and T4 or you're T3 only. Never, ever do I have someone on T4 only. Why? Because it only works in 2% of the population. And of that 2%, I would like to interview them or at least ask a question, kind of man on the street. Hey, Susie, you said that you're optimal on T4 only, but do you feel like you're carrying around extra weight? Yes. Okay. Do you struggle with fatigue? Yes. Okay. Then how is that okay? How do you classify that as okay? Oh, I know, because that's become your new norm. Feeling like garbage and dragging yourself through the day while carrying an extra 20 to 50 pounds is your new norm. And you don't even realize that life can be different. That's the 2%. They're still messed up and they're still not optimized, but they don't even know it. They're just living life as is, or they don't really care, but you care. You care how you feel every single day. So we need to change that. T4 and T3. Let's say you are on T4. And if you're working with someone who knows what they're doing and you came in with an elevator reverse T3, they dropped your T4 dose. Let's use hypotheticals. Let's grab some numbers. Let's say you're on 88 micrograms of T4 only, feeling like crap, gaining weight, losing hair, constipated, can't think, dragging your butt through the day. Right, because your reverse T3 is a 20. Let's take that T4 down to, we'll drop it down to 50 micrograms, and we're going to add in T3. And we're going to start slow and gradually work our way up in that T3 dose. But what we'll end up seeing is that reverse will come down. The free T3 will come up, exactly what we want. And the free T4 will go low. Why? Because we just dropped the T4. In fact, sometimes we're taking people down to 25 micrograms. Sometimes we're taking people down to 12.5 micrograms, just so you can have a little bit of your savings account. T4 is savings, T3 is checking, just so you can have a little bit in your savings account to pull from when you need. But you have more in checking. You have more T3 coming in than you do T4. So just based on that logic alone, those numbers alone, can't we state the obvious that T4 is going to go down as T3 goes up because we just lowered the dose of T4, sometimes very, very, very low? Of course, it makes sense. Now, conventional medicine, endocrinologists, they don't get that. They look at your numbers and they freak out because your free T4 dropped or your TSH dropped. Oh my God. But again, we have to come back to A, asking you those four most important words, how do you feel? And B, looking at your free T3 and reverse T3. Those are the two most important markers in your thyroid panel that you can look at, that you can possibly ever order. If you have to order it yourself, just get those two. If you have a doctor that doesn't order them, leave. Fire your doctor, move on. I don't care whether they're functional, integrative, or conventional. You got to move on because they're not going to help you. They can't even order the right labs. They don't even know what they're looking at. That's a red flag to me. So do not chase your T4. Don't get caught up in that number. Don't worry about TSH being suppressed. Don't worry about reverse T3 going down. Make sure that reverse T3 is below a 12. Make sure that your free T3 is in that upper quadrant of the range, but you do not chase T4. So if you're wondering what we're doing with Natalie, her free T3 was actually flagged low at a 1.7. 1.7. She asked me, well, where should it be? I'm like a 3.8 to a 4.4 based on this lab value range. It's the upper quadrant of the range. It's where we want your free T3. So what are we doing with her? We're actually doing T3 only for a while to push down the reverse T3. And then we'll try to add in a little bit of T4. And this is what I like doing with my patients that come in with that elevated reverse T3, whether they're pushing their own thyroid hormone to reverse or they're pushing their astronomical amount of T4 that their doctor gave them to reverse. Give T3 only to push down that reverse and then try to add in some of that savings account. Then we just try to add in that T4 thyroid medication at a nice low dose. And then we say, okay, let's do this for a week. How do you feel? You feel good? All right, just keep that in. It's nice to have a savings account. We're going to monitor your reverse. We're going to make sure that that doesn't go up. We want it to go down. We want it below a 12. We want it to stay there. If it can stay below a 12 and you feel good on that small amount of T4 that we added in, fine. Absolutely amazing. We're going to leave it right there. But if we add that T4 in and then all of a sudden, like my week just went to crap. Now I'm tired. I gained 10 pounds. What the hell happened? I'm depressed. We take it back out. Maybe do that again a month or so later, add it back in. How do you feel? Nope, went hypo again. Okay, pull it back out again. And after you've done that experiment a couple of times, you know that you are now T3 only. You can't even handle T4. And I know this from experience because this is exactly what I did. I have tried on at least 3 occasions to add back in T4. And every single time within a week, I have gained weight and become clinically depressed to the point where I actually understand what people are talking about when they say they can't get out of bed because they're too depressed. I get that. And it's horrible. And every time I try it, that happens. So that tells me I am T3 only. Most recently, I got a genetic test from one of my coaches on my team, Susan Robbins. You've heard her on the show. She does epigenetic testing. Well, she does epigenetic coaching, but she does genetic testing. She does it the right way with the right company that actually has the D101 and D102 SNP in their panel. And sure enough, I have 2 copies, I believe. So that is what I have thought all along, that I have a genetic SNP that does not allow me to convert T4 to T3. I would bet money if we test Natalie that that's the case with her, because her own body, her own thyroid gland production of T4 is not being converted properly. That has to be a genetic SNP, because we checked all of the other boxes for her. So I'm really hoping that this helps you kind of reset your mentality, especially when you're looking at your labs. I'm a huge advocate of you being your own advocate and knowing exactly what medication you're taking, what your dose is. If I stop you on the street, and this is a call out to all my patients too, if I stop you on the street and I ask you, what thyroid medication and dose are you on? You should be able to fire that off to me in 2 seconds. I don't want to pause. I don't want you to have to go in your purse or into your online portal. You should know it. You have to know this like the back of your hand to be your own patient advocate, so that when you hear podcasts like this, you can go, okay, yeah, I am on 88 micrograms of T4. My last reverse T3 was an 18. I believe I am not properly medicated. And you would be correct. But you have to start with knowing your own self and your own body and what's going in it. And then you take this information and you become your own patient advocate and you demand better care. And if a doctor doesn't want to meet those demands, you fire them, because at the end of the day, you're paying them. I don't care if you're using your insurance and paying a copay. You're paying them. I don't care if you're dropping thousands of dollars with a functional practitioner. You're paying them. You need to be your own advocate. You need to demand proper testing. You need to demand proper treatment. And if they don't give it, then you fire them. Oh, I have an amazing patient right now. Last story, I promise. I have an amazing patient right now. She's just kicking ass and taking names. She's never felt better. I get texts from her every single week. Oh my God, I'm down another 5 pounds. I never felt better. My husband loves me because I have a libido again. It's fantastic. Well, she actually came from a so-called thyroid expert out there who on the phone promised her that she would do T3, on social promises that she'll do T3, but then at the end of the day, capped her max dose out at like 10 or 20 micrograms of T3 and wouldn't go above that. Meanwhile, this girl has an elevated reverse T3. They're pumping her full of NP thyroid and armor. They went back and forth. Doesn't really freaking matter, because that's 80% T4. Hello. NDT is not necessarily better than T4 only, folks. NDT is still 80% T4. And honestly, a lot of Hashimoto patients don't do very well on NDT. I really prefer, unless someone is coming in and they're on it and they're doing fine, we just need to change that ratio, adding in T3 to change that 80-20 ratio that is NDT. Unless you're coming in already on it and really pretty much feeling good, but we just need to tweak, that's fine. We'll leave it. But I don't jump to it. And I think that's a huge problem in the functional and integrative space, is everybody is so wrapped up in the natural desiccated thyroid as being the only great thyroid medication. Well, that is as bad as conventional medicine saying that we're just going to do T4 only. If you are integrative and functional and you're saying we're only going to do armor thyroid and I won't prescribe more than 20 micrograms of T3, you are no better than conventional medicine. Just go back to it. Stop charging people. Just take their insurance. Be a normal PCP. Be an endocrinologist. They're no better either. And this person kept this poor girl with an elevated reverse T3 on NDT medication and would not go above 20 micrograms of T3. Malpractice. She's thriving now. I love it. So this is the point of nuanced treatment with the thyroid. You have to make sure. So if you're, the end of the story is she asked for a refund. She asked for a refund from that practitioner because she wasn't following through on anything that she promises on social. Ask for that refund from the functional practitioner that doesn't know the thyroid. That's cool. You paid them. They're working for you, same as your conventional doctor. So I want you to be a patient advocate. I want you to stand up for yourself. I want you to know what you need. And I'm going to keep teaching you that till it's drilled into your head. Thank you for listening.